left. They respond, though, with one emotion: rage.
I was so angry I couldn't sleep. I was looking for a protest. I needed to scream at someone. The dark days have already started for many, but they will eventually come for everyone.
We need Americans to understand this is their story. This is not normal.
Oh, maybe masks aren't so bad after all. Is Musk rattled, though, by all this noise?
I think when people criticize, say, what Doge is doing, we say, well, which part specifically? Because we put all of the actions of the Doge team on the Doge.gov website and on the Doge handle on X. So post the receipts, like which cost saving do you disagree with? And then people usually can't think of any.
No.
So
it's transparent line by line.
It's transparent line by line.
If not for Doge, we wouldn't have heard about Stacey Abrams. Remember? She got the $2 billion, but she tried to justify the money that one of her affiliated organizations, she's linked to organizations that received money, big money, from the EPA.
I led a program called Vitalizing DeSoto. We worked in a tiny town to demonstrate that by replacing energy inefficient appliances with efficient appliances, you can lower your costs. Based on that program, a coalition of organizations came together and said to the EPA, if we can do this here, we can do this for millions more Americans. And the EPA said, okay, great, go for it.
Go for it! $2 billion. Are those appliances made of 24 karat gold? Green gold? But what about the children? I know you're asking that. What about the children? Don't worry, because somehow the Biden administration managed to send $312 million in COVID loans to kids ages 11 and younger. Joining me now, Vivek Ramaswamy, Doge co-founder and Ohio gubernatorial candidate, which makes me so happy. Vivek, great to see you as always. This is just wild. Just on the kids getting the money, Vivek.
It was wild, Laura, because on one hand you had kids under the age of 11 getting those checks. On the other hand, you had people above the age of 157 getting those same checks. And here's what they share in common. Neither of them should have been getting it because they probably don't even exist. The reality is much of this fraud can only exist when the government is wasting that level of money. And you and I are all in favor of lifting up kids in this country. But the way to do it isn't through artificial programs that send it to likely made-up people in the form of COVID loans that were designed to be given through the Small Business Administration. It doesn't make sense. So I think transparency is a good thing. I don't think that should be controversial. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, you deserve to see how your taxpayer dollars are being spent. And I think what we're discovering, Laura, is that a lot of people in the administrative state, in that bureaucracy, have been spending our money, that taxpayer money, as if it's their private piggy bank for their pet causes. And thankfully it needs to end. But we're also seeing, Laura, that it's not just the bureaucracy. This is going to be one of the top two things that I think comes out of Doge run. It's going to restore accountability to Congress. Because frankly, there's people in both parties that have been responsible for giving these vast swaths of money to be handed out through the grift that is that bureaucracy. And so I think this is a good development. We should continue to see this level of transparency. Our taxpayers deserve better. And finally, they're just beginning to actually get it.
Well, Vivek, talk to us about these protests that are popping up across the country. We're going to get to the protests, nasty stuff going on at the Tesla dealerships, but just on these pop-up protests on Capitol Hill, it's like they just took the people, the people from the, Code Pink. It's just like an amalgam of the same people. I swear there's some of the same people that you see at other types of protests.
You're exactly right about that, Laura. I was going to say, if you go to New York City and you go to the Dominican Day Parade, and then you go to the Indian Day Parade, and then the Ireland Day Parade, it ends up being some of the same people who are professional paraders. And that's fine in the context of a friendly parade. It's like the equivalent of that for these professional protesters. It's a rent-a-protester activity. They may not even know what cause they're fighting for, right? They may be still dated and fighting for a BLM protest because they didn't get the memo that it's 3 years later and now it's up to be Doge that you're protesting instead. So it has an astroturf quality to it. And I do think that one of the things we ought to do better is to really engage the best possible arguments for the other side. what you'll discover is many of these rancorous protesters outside, they don't know the first thing about what they're actually protesting for. But that will hopefully cause, if there are those who have better arguments against saving taxpayer dollars away from this waste, fraud, and abuse, if there's good arguments to the contrary, I'd love to hear them.